What is up, everybody? What is up? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. On this video, I'm bringing in one of the biggest, smartest real estate investors as well as financial advocates. Meet Kevin, huge YouTube star. I am bringing him on and I'm going to analyze one of his videos that he talked about this pending crash. He backs up a lot about what he's talking about statistically, and quite honestly, I like what he has to say. Check it out. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my video. I am Justin Colby, CEO, president, founder of The Science of Flipping, and there is a couple people on YouTube that I absolutely idolize, not just because their YouTube channel is cool, because they actually do good work and they back it up with facts and reason. One of those individuals is Meet Kevin. So what I'm gonna do, he did a long video about this pending housing market crash. I'm gonna bring him in on one of his videos and we're gonna see if what he says is actually accurate and my feelings behind what he is saying. So jump in, let's talk about this market crash. Take a look at Meet Kevin.
All right, so let's get into the 4 reasons people are giving that there will be a massive housing crash, and let's see what kind of data we have following these so that we can determine, okay, will there actually be a crash, or is this just, a bunch of dramatic titling and no actual substance? And that's what we want to get to the bottom of, using actual substance. So let's make this simple and clean. Here's the scoop. Fear-mongering videos that tell us that the housing market is bound to crash like to refer to a very simple statistic, and it has to do with information provided by Black Knight Analytics. They collect real estate data, and they like to say, or people who make conclusions from this data like to say, oh my gosh, we have 3.186 million mortgages who are 30 days past due but not yet in foreclosure, and holy smokes, we have over 2 million mortgages 90 days or more past due but not yet in foreclosure. And then usually what the fear-mongering videos or articles do is they say, oh, what if 50% of them end up going into foreclosure all at the same time? That's it. Market, crash. Supply, up. Distressed sales, compound, and we have another 2008 foreclosure crisis. But guess what these articles and videos never tell you about mortgage forbearance? They never tell you some of the most important differences about mortgage forbearance after COVID from before COVID. See, before COVID, if you missed a payment on a mortgage and you were 90 days late, the odds of you recovering were very low. You were heading down the path of either short sale, deed in lieu foreclosure, or foreclosure. It was bad. And at the same time, guess what was happening to that credit score that you used to get your original loan? Decimated. Your credit was getting decimated for being 90 days late. It was really bad. It was a huge signal of distress that you were trying to make the determination, do I put food on the table or do I just go 90 days plus late on my mortgage? It was bad. You were getting hit up by attorneys, threatening to foreclose on you, or getting hit up by attorneys trying to defend you to prevent foreclosure. It was a disaster before COVID. But guess what happened after COVID? Well, when COVID hit, the CARES Act happened. And I've actually read the CARES Act law many times, and the CARES Act turned all of this on its head. First, it said anybody who wants mortgage forbearance can have it. We won't even check your data. We won't even check if you actually have a hardship. Kevin, you say you have a hardship? No problem. Here's mortgage forbearance. And don't worry about your credit score. For the next 12 to 15 months that you take mortgage forbearance and you just don't make your payment, take that money and go YOLO it on some GameStop call options. We don't care what you do with it because we're not checking. We will make sure that your credit does not get affected. Now, there have been some temporary fluctuations in credit scores with notations, but those tend to go away over time. But in the long and short of it is, people's credit scores aren't getting decimated from taking mortgage forbearance. They're actually still showing as current when lenders pull their credit, which is incredible. So that means somebody could literally have not paid their bills on their mortgage for 12 months, and they would still technically show up as current to the reporting agencies. Now, something else that's really interesting is that while you're in forbearance, you can't refinance. So while real estate prices have been going up, you actually can't take on more debt. So it's not like real estate prices are going up, people are refinancing like crazy and taking out a bunch more debt because they can't. If they're in forbearance, they're stuck. You can't get a new loan when you're in forbearance. You can't get a home equity line of credit when you're in forbearance. So you've actually got people who are potentially just opting into forbearance, not because they need to, but because why not? It's basically free stimulus money. If you have to repay this at the end of your loan or in future payments, whatever, you were able to YOLO into the stock market or spend money on something else in the meantime. And again, this isn't to say that everybody does this. It's really just to say that we don't know how many people are doing this and are not doing this. So for anybody to say, that's it, 50% of people in forbearance are going into foreclosure, where are you pulling that number out when we have this optional program for people to enroll in?
Guys, what you just heard from Meet Kevin is exactly why I really idolize him and respect his perspective on all this. If you have watched any of my YouTube videos over the past year and a half through this COVID, I've always been really skeptical of this big foreclosure tsunami, foreclosure wave, whatever we want to call it. It's because of this, what he just highlights and mentions right here in this first part about the CARES Act, about the fact that it allows anybody at any time to simply just go to their bank and ask to go into forbearance, regardless of need or not, and simply live for free and get government money and essentially have no repercussions based around their credit and their ability to stay in the home. When people say that there is going to be this big 50% foreclosure wave of everyone who is actually going to end up going to foreclosure, supply is going to raise, there's going to be a massive meltdown in the market, I ask them to simply reason. Understand this video, rewatch this video, share this video. Because while Meet Kevin actually is doing his research and actually understanding the CARES Act, most people aren't. And it creates this fear-mongering in the news and in media, and people go bananas. I've said it time and time again. I don't have a crystal ball with exactly what is going to happen, but I'm using some common sense along with some data, such as the CARES Act, that kind of just points out here there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be able to get loan mods, that are going to be able to restructure their loan, that actually still have their job because they can still get forbearance even if they had a job. They can actually just start paying their mortgage again and won't go to forbearance, and they just kick the can down the road for a year and a half. So please rewatch what you just heard, because there's a lot of just simple reasoning, right? Being pragmatic about what has been given out with all of this forbearance.
But it's not just people being in mortgage forbearance that's a reason why, okay, there won't be a crash. Of course, mortgage forbearance is going to end at some point. But wait a minute, what else do we have? We have the CARES Act saying after mortgage forbearance, lenders are compelled to work with people to make sure they can afford their payment when forbearance ends. So if the payment they originally had is too high, lenders are now by Congress compelled to give them a lower payment. Maybe they turn a 30-year loan into a 40-year loan, lowering the person's monthly payment to make sure they can stay in their home. Then Joe Biden and Congress have passed over $50 billion. Donald Trump deserves credit for this as well. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Congress have passed over $50 billion of housing rental relief and mortgage relief. Some money in a pot there too. And so all of a sudden, when you pull all of this together, you go, wait a minute. So we have 3 million people in mortgage forbearance, but the people in forbearance aren't necessarily signaling that they can't make their payments, because anybody could sign up for mortgage forbearance. Still today, anybody could sign up for mortgage forbearance. Just have to raise your hand. I want mortgage forbearance. Okay, no problem. Over 60% of people have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA loans. And with those loan types, you get the amount that you owe just hooked on to the back of your loan, which you just repay off when you sell or refinance in the future. If you don't have a conventional loan, obviously then you have more issues in forbearance. But then you might also not be in one of these forbearance plans. You might either be making your payment or you might be in foreclosure. But that's different from this Black Knight data. And unfortunately, the Black Knight data does not provide us the correct insight that we need to say that a whole bunch of these people are going to go into foreclosure. We can't say that. And so anybody making those projections, in my opinion, is using this data inappropriately to convey that there definitely will be a real estate crash. This mortgage...
So again, what he's simply saying, and it makes complete logic, all the people, and I have friends that do this all the time, they take data and they reshape the data and statistics to make it align with what they want to believe or their point. Doesn't actually mean it's accurate. What you just heard is Congress is compelling the banks to work with individuals who have chosen to go down the path of forbearance. Government is actually saying work with them. Whether they take what is owed and put it on the back of their loan, whether they restructure a loan, whether they elongate the loan, literally our government is saying just work with these people regardless of them needing it or not, because anyone could go and get forbearance. And so again, people are just trying to fearmonger the statistics that obviously, rationally speaking, pragmatically speaking, Kevin is showing you that it's used in the wrong way. It's not totally accurate to the reality of what is going on. I like to say this, there's classroom world and then there's real world. And what's happening is everyone's using classroom world, right? All these millions of people in forbearance, it obviously means X. There is gonna be a huge foreclosure crisis. But then there's real world, and people aren't connecting the two.
Mortgage forbearance data is the wrong data to use for that. Again, number one, most important, we do not have data on whether or not people actually really need this forbearance. Number two, people who can't afford their original payments are now are able to work with banks to have lower monthly payments, so they're not forced to sell. Also, the people who are in forbearance likely have positive equity. What do I mean by that? Well, in February of 2020, only about 10% of mortgages were about 10% or had less than 10% equity. So 10% of existing mortgages had less than 10% equity, which means if they have a $100,000 house, they owe $90,000 or more on the property. Well, over the last year, if people were in mortgage forbearance, they haven't taken on more debt, with the exception of their monthly payments, and home prices have gone up 13 to 14%. So the odds are a lot of the people who have taken mortgage forbearance from the beginning of this pandemic might actually be in a positive equity territory right now. So when you combine all of these things, the rental relief, the housing relief, the fact that people's equity has increased during mortgage forbearance above and beyond the payments they're postponing, the fact that people can now negotiate their payments with banks and we don't know whether or not people actually need mortgage forbearance means bottom line number one, forecasting a housing market crash using mortgage forbearance data is highly misleading at best. And at worst, is just clickbait to get people excited about, yay, maybe one day prices will be lower.
Guys, this is the end-all be-all for me. I actually genuinely make this argument all the time with people talking about, I personally am buying a home right now. You need to wait to buy, prices are gonna go crazy low, huge foreclosures, huge supply, no one's gonna be able to afford, interest rates up. And here's the reality. Over the last year and a half, since COVID hit, cities like Phoenix have appreciated north of 25%. Appreciated north of 25%. And there are many markets like this. You just heard anywhere from 12% to 25%, maybe even more. For those of people who took forbearance and actually can't afford to catch up, they genuinely don't have a job, they're actually in a reason to be in forbearance, well, guess what they can do? They likely can sell their home, and by the way, they can sell their home for a profit. Not just to get out of the debt, but quite literally for a profit. So when people make the argument, all of these people who are in forbearance and all these people not paying their mortgage, there's gonna be a flood, it's gonna be crazy, market's gonna be decimated, it's gonna crash like 2008, another recession, it's gonna drop 50%. I sit here and I just use a little bit more reasoning. I become a little bit more pragmatic, and I'm so glad I found this video from Meet Kevin. And I'm actually gonna link this video right below in my comments because you need to watch the entirety of this video. In fact, go ahead and follow Meet Kevin because he's one of the people that I actually watch on YouTube. The idea that there's gonna be this mass wave is highly unlikely when you just use some common sense along with A, data, but B, law and reform about what things are doing and how they're changing real time. The CARES Act is one of them. So again, whether you're a real estate investor, whether you're trying to buy your own home, I wouldn't be hopeful in the next 6 months, maybe not even the next year, for some massive wave of foreclosures where you're gonna be able to gobble up everything and you've kept your cash on the side, and the only way for you to be able to afford a home is to wait because there's gonna be this huge price reduction. I'm not so hopeful. To the point where I'm actually actively buying a house right now as I shoot this video because I'm getting a good home at a good price that's fair relative to the market, and I just don't see the market going backwards anytime soon, let alone crashing. Again, the link to this video is right below for Meet Kevin. If you like this, if you're encouraged by this, hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, and if you are in real estate, make sure you go to thescienceflipping.com, fill out a simple form, and I can see if I can actually help you. I appreciate Meet Kevin for having this video out. Again, his link is below. He is one of those individuals that I genuinely will watch because he's pragmatic, he's reasonable, and he backs it up with data and actual, stats that really are just there for everyone to see, just used correctly. Hope this finds you guys well. See you on the next video.